Blessed good day. This is Minister Daly Reese. I just want to share a few facts with you concerning COVID 19 and the 5G network. Now, here are just a few facts that prove conclusively, beyond reasonable doubt, that the 5G network is not the cause of this epidemic. Number one, only 88 countries in the world have agreed to actually utilize the 5G network services, and many of those 88 countries do not yet have functioning 5G network services. But COVID 19 has already spread to 210 countries around the world. So it is in many countries that do not have a 5G network. So people are getting sick and dying from this epidemic in countries that don't even have 5G network services. So how could it possibly be caused by 5G networks in that case? Number two, not everyone in the radius of the cell tower signals get sick with COVID 19. Now we know that cell towers operate by sending out their signal within a certain radius. It goes out in every direction of that radius. If indeed that signal, if that frequency were the thing that was making people sick, it would be impossible for you to be within that radius and not be affected. But we've got lots of people living right next door to cell towers who have cell phones operating with 5G, who don't have COVID 19, who are not laid up sick in a hospital. So the mere fact that some people have it and some people don't have it within the same radius of the cell tower proves that it is not caused by the cell signal. The reason why some people have not gotten it is because they have been practicing good hygiene, they've been practicing social distancing, they've been sanitizing, they've been isolating, and so forth. Number three, well, there are so many survivors recovering from COVID 19 who didn't leave the area where 5G signals, where 5G has coverage. So it's not as if the people who have recovered have destroyed their cell phones. It's not as if we have had reports that the telephone companies have turned off their 5G network services. If it were being caused, if this sickness were being caused by the 5G network, then the only way for people to recover would be either to turn off the 5G services or for people to leave the areas that have 5G coverage. That's not the case. The service hasn't been turned off, and people are not leaving areas that have 5G coverage, and yet thousands of people are recovering. In fact, more people are recovering from COVID 19 than there are people who are dying. Number four, there is no evidence that China has turned off its 5G network. And yet, if we look at the situation with China, the cases have abated. There are no large number of new cases being reported in China, and yet their 5G network is still up and running. So we can say, therefore, that the social distancing and the sanitizing has been working. The quarantine has been working. How they are spraying down in the streets. All of these measures that they took would not have worked if this sickness were being caused by their cell phone service. Number five, 5G services exist in 50 different cities across China. Okay? In 50 different cities across the whole of China, and yet the vast majority of the deaths were contained mostly within Wuhan province. Shanghai has nearly 12,000 5G base stations, and yet less than 200 people have died from COVID 19 in Shanghai, compared to the thousands that died in Italy, the thousands that died in Spain, the thousands that died in the United States, whose 5G coverage is way less, way less than the 12,000 base stations in throughout the whole of China. In fact, at one point, the United States became ground zero for this epidemic. Take, for example, Sweden. Sweden has no commercial 5G network and just one very small test network in Stockholm. Yet, When I checked Worldometer a couple days ago, 9,685 people had corona, and there were 870 people dead from this virus. The first case of corona in Sweden was in the city of Jönköping, which is 360 kilometers away from Stockholm. Why wasn't the first case in Stockholm where the first test site for 5G exists? Why would their first case be so far away in a totally different city that doesn't even have 5G coverage? So clearly, it's not because of the 5G network. Now, number 6, scientists and doctors have poured an immense amount of time and effort analyzing the coronavirus, and they have fully sequenced its genome. Now, this is important to determine if someone has the disease, and to develop a vaccine. So it's important to sequence the genome in order to do testing and in order to develop a vaccine. This data, after sequencing the genome, has been made public so that any scientist anywhere in the world can analyze it for themselves. If you are studious enough to read up on viruses and the nature of disease and germs and bacteria and so on, you yourself can research, analyze this information for yourself and understand it. So wouldn't the thousands of doctors, lab technicians, and scientists around the world be able to tell the difference between a virus and radiation poisoning from a cell tower signal? Why isn't there a single expert physician, scientist, or lab technician on Earth who came out and contradicted the official story concerning COVID-19? Are they all on it? Are they all in on the conspiracy? You know, all of these people across the world, from every discipline, from every race, religion, political ideology, no religion, from every background, they would all have to be in on the conspiracy to look at the scientific data concerning COVID-19 and not be able to tell the difference between that and radiation poisoning from a cell signal from a cell tower. So that's just not possible for so many to be in on this conspiracy and not have one dissenter. Number 7, the symptoms of radiation poisoning are seizures, cancer, inflammation and scarring in the lungs, internal bleeding, infection, burns, dizziness, hair loss, bloody vomit, low blood pressure. These symptoms are not seen in the vast majority of COVID patients. So we know that this sickness, this pandemic, is not the cause of radiation poisoning from the cell tower frequencies or signals. Number 8, 5G uses non-ionizing radiation that isn't even harmful to humans, so it can't be caused by the 5G network. Number 9, higher levels of radiation from X-ray machines, CT scans, microwave ovens, and ultraviolet light from the sun has been available to us long before the 5G network came about. So if the 5G signal is causing a pandemic, well then all of us should have been dead a long time ago, because the level of radiation that we get from the sun's ultraviolet light and from all these other things like microwave ovens, X-rays, CT scans, and so on is actually higher than the type of radiation used by any cell service, 5G or otherwise. So again, if those higher levels of radiation didn't cause a worldwide pandemic, then neither should 5G service. Number 10, a lot has been made over the fact that the radiation from the cell signals has been labeled as carcinogenic by the International Agency for Research on Cancer. Carcinogenic means having the potential to cause cancer to humans. But what they did not tell you when they were conjuring up this whole conspiracy theory is that this same International Agency for the Research on Cancer has labeled a lot of other things as carcinogenic that never started a worldwide pandemic. Normal things such as processed meat, things like hot dogs, hams, beef, have been said to be carcinogenic by this same international body. 50 grams of processed meat a day, according to them, raises the risk of colorectal cancer by 18%. And cardiovascular disease and even diabetes is a risk from processed foods. Things that are also carcinogenic are microwave ovens and x-ray machines, alcohol, even eating bagels and pickled food, salted nuts, even artificial flavors. All of these things have also been labeled as carcinogenic. So being labeled carcinogenic doesn't therefore prove that 5G, the 5G signal is responsible for this epidemic. There are tons of things that are labeled as carcinogenic, none of which has ever caused a worldwide pandemic. And number 11, carcinogenic, as I said earlier, means having the ability to cause cancer. But COVID-19 patients around the world, they're not getting cancer. There's a big difference between COVID-19 and cancer. So there is no link. There is absolutely no conspiracy here. Okay? So that even if we wanted to run with the carcinogenic theory, what would have to happen is that all these thousands of people that are getting sick would be getting sick with cancer. But that's not the case. They're getting sick with COVID-19. Two completely different things. So there's no connection. There's no conspiracy. And I've given you 11 good reasons so that you can be sure that the 5G network is not the cause of COVID-19. Okay? Now, those people who, a lot of those websites that are promoting the idea that the 5G network is causing COVID-19 has links on it advertising certain flash drives that you can buy that would protect your computers or protect your cell phones or protect your whatever devices you have from this 5G network signal. Interestingly, that they are finding a way to profit from this conspiracy theory. Isn't that interesting? We have reports of people selling special software now that they're encouraging you to buy to protect yourself because they have rumored that the 5G network signal is going to be used in some diabolical way. So they have used it in order to entice people to buy their products or the products of their friends whose links you will find on some of their websites. Isn't that convenient that the very conspiracy theory that they claim they're using to open your eyes to what the evil rulers of the world are doing is the very thing they're using to make a dollar for themselves? Okay? So that should put things in perspective for us. The reason why this conspiracy theory is dangerous is because in the United Kingdom, many people have started vandalizing the property of telephone companies. This is against the law. People will be put in prison for this. Arson is a crime. People are burning, actually setting fire to the property of telephone companies, trying to vandalize cell towers and so forth. Okay, what's next? Are they going to attack the actual workers that work at the telephone companies? When they do this, they have disrupted the service of telephone companies around throughout the country. You don't know who was about to make a life and death phone call at the very moment that the cell service went down because some fool vandalize the property of the telephone company. Also, it's dangerous. It's a dangerous conspiracy theory because those who believe it will not believe, therefore, that COVID-19 is necessarily a virus that spreads through droplets that come out from your cough. And therefore, they're not going to sanitize enough. They are not going to practice social distancing enough. They're not going to quarantine themselves enough. Because if indeed people are getting sick because of signals from a cell tower, from radiation from a telephone company service, then really and truly the social distancing is not going to protect us. It's not going to help. So why social distance? Why sanitize if it's not going to help? So believing in this theory is dangerous on two separate fronts, and that's why it's so important that we get accurate information and we make sure that we listen to the right sources. So I hope that this information has been helpful to help you to appreciate that the 5G network is not the cause of COVID 19 or any other pandemic. And so you don't have to destroy your cell phone. You don't have to get angry with the telephone company. The world is already going through enough right now to allow this fear mongering to cause people to panic and to live in fear and to make an already bad problem worse. I thank you so much for listening to me, and I pray that you have a blessed day.